welcome back to Feast or Famine with the Youngs.
We are the Youngs, and is he a Young technically?
You know what? Honorary, maybe.
Honorary Young. Been around long enough.
We have
By now.
maybe, it's biased for sure, but like this might be my favorite guest.
That's definitely biased.
Well,
We are biased.
Y'all need to stop. I'm gonna get too nervous.
no, don't be nervous.
Who are you,
yeah,
dude?
who are you?
Apparently your guys' favorite.
Yes.
I'm second videographer most of the time.
Yeah.
For the Youngs photo video.
I'll just call you like
Yeah.
our full-time assistant, period.
This
Because you
is-
do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, this is Jaron. If you see us, you see Jaron.
Probably.
Probably. He literally comes, I think, to like almost every shoot with us except for engagement sessions, but actually you have also come to engagement
Yeah,
sessions.
I'm like a leech. I'm always there.
We like that. We like that. He literally shoots everything with us, I feel like.
Yeah, even there's weddings that he wasn't even planned to come, and we were like, yeah, we're gonna need Jaron with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Youngs plus Jaron, that's just kind of how we roll.
Yeah, it's become that way. It's really sort of a blessing because
It is not sort of a blessing. It totally is a blessing.
Because videographers in general in this industry have to like find other videographers
Mm-hmm.
to work for them, and it's usually a group of several people that they
Work with and
work
have a
with
rotation.
and have rotations with. But Jaron has been with us almost every wedding except for a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because of that, we've got such a like
We got that
system
flow.
down that
Yeah.
we don't even got to talk about stuff most of
Yeah.
the time. And I know that if I'm like, hey, you take care of lights,
You
that's all
already
I have
know.
to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
or hey, connect audio. That's all I have
hard
to
to
say.
find for sure. Is like someone that you can just mesh well with and work well with weddings, videographers. I feel like everyone's got their own style. So
Yeah, we're
feel like-
super lucky to have you. And I tell you that probably every other day.
And that's not to say like hiring a really good lead shooter as a second shooter isn't a good idea. This eliminates the extra explanation that I have to give, like, hey, this is how we do things. This is how I want to set
Yeah.
the lights up. Can you do it with this? Or hey, can you get this? Shoot it like this. We're not going to do that anymore.
yeah.
Well, even like you might not know this, Jaron, but just as like a business and brand perspective, like that is such a big thing for us, and having people on our team that we trust. Obviously, like, you know, all of this, but like when I'm having meetings with prospective brides and things like that, a lot of the times they're asking like, who is our second photographer? Who is our second videographer? The second photographer changes because we haven't found the photographer version of you yet.
But it's a core
But
group of people.
I can always say that Jaron is our second videographer and our assistant. He's a part of our team. He's a part of our business. He's there every single wedding.
Unless he has his own.
Unless he has his own.
Because he does
But,
take some associate work.
Like, that's
And a couple of
something
his own.
that I tell like almost all of our clients is most likely you'll have Jaron with us too.
Yeah.
And just saying, like, he's worked almost every wedding with us for 3 years, 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been 3 years almost now.
Is this 3?
You're not tired of us yet?
It's getting there.
It's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand.
No.
And fun
Right.
fact, your brother came before you
Yeah.
and ditched us.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
Jake
The
you ditched
second
us.
version of Jake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I met you guys, through my brother. He was doing like the same thing for you guys,
Yep.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Second shooting, and then he moved out of state, and y'all needed some help doing video.
Yeah, and I've told Jaron this before, but like we felt so comfortable with Jake. And are you tired?
I've been tired. I haven't had caffeine at all today, and it's horrible.
I had a C4, so I feel I'm a little wired actually.
Yes.
I need to calm down. But we felt so comfortable with Jake. And then he was like, hey, I'm moving. And I'm like, what are we going to freaking do? And he was like, you should meet my brother. And I had my nose turned up. I was like, no. And then we met him, and we met Jaron, and we did our first event with him. And I was like, I low-key like Jaron a little bit more. Not just kidding.
Don't tell Jake that.
No, they're both great. They're both great. But yeah, so today I'm gonna kind of just like hang out, chill, give my input here and there. But this is really for the boys. This one's for the boys.
We talk about gear constantly, like literally, like if we're not talking about coffee stuff, because fun fact, he's also helping us with Till Death.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So he's just all encompassing with what we're doing, which is great. So we always talk about coffee. We're always talking about gear. pretty much the two main topics of conversation.
I think we both have G.A.S, is what you would call it, gear acquisition syndrome.
Yes.
Ooh.
Very strong. You haven't heard that?
No.
What?
Wow.
I don't think I have it as much as
Oh, you have it.
He's got G.A.S. Alex has G.A.S.
I have G.A.S. So let's talk about what that actually means. So I always want to know what the new stuff is and what's coming out and how the video industry and is improving with gear, even photography and videography. I just am not one of the ones that immediately wants to be like, I'm selling all my stuff and buying all this new stuff every time something comes out.
No, but you do. Every time there's like Canon posts like
a rumor
or something,
rumors,
like you
Canon.
will like tell me right away, and I'm like, I really don't care.
Well, we've been talking about the RF 35 for
Okay, but like
super long time,
Yeah.
and they're finally saying it's going to be out this year. So, grain of salt.
I've made my mind up about that though. We've had that I'm not going to do the new 35.
Yeah.
Even though I want it, I'm not going to do it because I would rather put my investment into the new 70 to 200.
Okay, so let's come back to that in just a second.
Okay.
I want you to start this.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Jaron, what are we talking about today?
Well,
Gas.
Gas. Gear.
Yes, gear.
We got Gas.
Yeah.
We always talk about that there is, in the midst of talking about new gear, we're always talking about there is this, I think it's mostly with newcomers, but there's a ton of people in the industry, even veterans that do
Yeah,
this.
definitely. Yeah.
That have this obsession and I guess addiction, I would say, to always buying new gear when it comes out. But as fast as gear comes out,
Yeah, it's impossible.
that's not a sustainable business model.
Yeah.
And B, it doesn't make him a good shooter.
Yeah.
What do you think like
I think the problem that we're trying to focus on with today's topic is kind of just like people over focusing on the gear and not maybe knowing how to maximize the gear that they do have, I guess.
Do you think it's just like a shiny new toy thing, or do you think like them buying these things like something like is like telling them, oh, it's going to improve my skill?
I feel like it's like this in a lot of hobbies because I've seen like posts, I've seen like memes where it's like, I swear this skateboard better fix every problem in my life right now.
Yeah.
If you're into skateboarding or whatever it may be, like I know for me, I'm into cameras and like sometimes I'll catch myself being like, if I just had an Arri Alexa 35 or whatever, I could just get this project or something. But it's like, no, I think I need to actually reach out to some people and like start putting together more portfolio and like learn how to do lighting better, audio better or something instead of just being like, I don't have an Arri, so I can't do this project.
Yeah, like letting the gear do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, and I remember the first time I ever used a cinema camera, like years ago on some sets that I've worked, the footage was awful because I didn't know how to work a cinema camera. And working a cinema camera is like night and day from your typical cameras.
That's something to be said. Like, I feel like, I guess it depends on like how new of a photographer or videographer you are. But if you haven't like known how to like completely use your gear to the absolute fullest and get the most out of it, you're not necessarily going to fully understand the capabilities of the next best thing. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
Well, I think that's one of the second like steps of this whole thing that we're talking about. Like you need to master the gear you have. But I think even before that, you need to master the craft.
Yeah.
Because I think the goal ultimately, and I think we've gotten pretty good at this because you shoot Sony currently and I shoot Canon. Yeah. And a lot of videographers shoot Sony. Mm-hmm.
And other
the
stuff.
goal is to be able to pick up any camera and have maybe 5 minutes just to get associated with where the buttons are.
The camera doesn't matter.
And you can make the shots look good because you know how to work a camera and to expose a shot properly and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, the best gear in the world isn't going to help you.
Yeah.
Well, you're like right now, you're like, you're going through a process.
I'm always going through it.
Share your process.
Jaren's going through a camera midlife crisis, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I always am. I'm always on the search for like having the best stuff. And like, I think being inspired by your gear is like really, really important, at least for me.
yeah.
Like I'm constantly grabbing a certain lens just because I'm feeling inspired about that. I just watched a YouTube video on it or whatever. I'll go out with just an 85 or something just because it's like, I wonder how I feel about 85. I need to really take into question like how exactly I feel about that, or compared to like 50 or something. But I've shot Sony since like 2016 and very, very confidently said that they're just like goated as like the best camera brand in a way.
At the time when you got it?
Yeah, at the time when I got it, it was like comparing the camera that I got, the Sony a6500, to like the competition. It just seemed like Sony was like really putting a lot in their cameras for the money. And I kind of developed this sort of like hatred for, not hatred, but like I was just like,
What's it called? Brand.
Resentment?
brand
What's the
loyalty.
word? Brand loyalty. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely had some like brand loyalty, and like definitely kind of like, oh, he shoots Canon, like pff, whatever.
What did you think about us then?
Well, no, I've always loved you guys, and like I think that's some proof right there. Is like we've always known that, like, once again, gear doesn't matter. It's really who's using it. So like that's the root of all this. Like, give me a potato, and I'll take some good videos. Like,
Yeah.
I'll take good video with whatever camera I have, as long as I know how to use it and I'm quick with it.
Well, that's like, doesn't Larev use C70?
He uses C7. He uses a C300.
C300.
C70s, R5s. He uses all Canon
All
stuff.
of them. So like that, I'm glad you said that, Jaron, because like if I'm going to compare our work to anybody, it's going to be Larev. But sometimes I'm like, we're literally using the same gear. Like, why does our stuff look different? And it's, the simple answer is just because
There's a lot of factors that go into that.
there's a lot of factors that go into it. But like one of the answers is simply that Lindsay is a lot more like educated, and he's been doing this for a longer time
At
than
that
us
level.
at a certain level that we aren't even at. So like, of course their stuff's going to look a little bit different.
Well, and he's also shooting weddings that are like, I remember a conversation I had in a group about like who the best wedding videographer is that shoots the best details. And I mentioned people like Larev and White and Reverie, because I love the way they establish like reception details and stuff like that, and just bounce between that and the narrative.
Yeah.
But both Lindsay and Kaylin jumped in on that thread and were like, thanks for the kind words, but realistically, the room kind of makes it easy for us.
Yeah.
When you
have the good details and
like that at that level, they become easier to shoot, because I've said it before, like, there's rooms that you walk into and there is not a single bad angle.
Yeah, you just
So
point
you
your
could
camera.
literally
and it's
point the
good.
camera something. Not that that's what they do,
Right.
but you could realistically point the camera in a direction and
Makes our job
it'll look
easy.
good.
yeah. Jaron, I love what you said about how you let like the gear inspire you. Can you like dive into that a little bit? Because I've never even thought about that.
Yeah, I just recently I kind of decided, is like, I want to collect vintage mechanical SLR cameras. So like late 60s, 70s, maybe 80s, mostly like 70s cameras are like completely mechanical, no battery. You just go out with some film and like the knowledge that you have in photography.
Oh my God, no battery. What would that even be?
So that's what I've been doing the past couple of days. I just have to use the years of my experience of like walking into a room and be like, what would my exposure be set to right now?
Ooh.
I have to factor in, like, if I'm wanting to take a picture of you right now, I'm like, okay, I have Portra 400 in there, so I'm at 400 ASA. I want to blur the background, so I'm going to put it at f1.8. So what's my shutter need to be? And then I sit there and I think about exactly what I
Yeah.
And
need
then you
to.
decide if the shutter is got to be too low, then I need to bump up my
Wait,
aperture some, because I'm going to get motion blur.
Maybe I'm dumb and I might embarrass myself here. If it doesn't run on a battery, how do you?
The vintage wind,
Oh, the
wind it just like
wind.
your
Oh,
It
A1.
yeah.
it like primes the mechanism
Like
that
under
opens
pressure,
the shutter.
and then
Oh,
it's
and it goes-
okay.
And it's so interesting to me that like shutter speeds. How are they controlling shutter speeds
Yeah.
mechanically?
Yeah.
100%. It's like a watch. That's way cooler than
Yeah.
like a vintage watch.
Like
to
you
me.
have to get those calibrated like so often, so that you know that 1/100th of a second
Is
still
actually-
going to be 1/100th of a second.
My one over there is like, if you put it on 1 second, it's like it starts going for like 3 seconds.
That's so fun though.
Yeah.
Like I've never even thought about
And then
that.
I have a whole roll of film where it's like, it could have turned out, or it could not. Like, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll pull out, I have an app that is like a light meter. I'll like, after I do that, I'll check with the light meter and see how far off I was.
Yeah.
I can see, like, put in those settings and see how close I was.
Well, and in doing something like that, even if you're checking the light meter first, what you're doing is saying, okay, this is what the scene looks like. This is what this says it needs to be.
But how do I want it to look?
So you get a base of like how just a general natural look is going to be, and then you can start experimenting and say, okay, now I want to lower my shutter speed, so I need to up my aperture.
Yeah. Or some people like push film and pull film, like underexpose it, just because you can do that with film.
Like there's some people that take the 800 and push it a stop or take it back a stop or something like that.
Yep.
Well, that kind of, there's a little bit of irony in that, because we're talking about like how, and I actually would say that it's more of like a greener like photographer that's like maybe not been in the industry for so long, where they're like, I just need to get the latest and greatest model of whatever camera to make sure that I look professional. I can do a good job at my weddings or whatever they're shooting. But the ironic part of like, I feel like where we're at least in the wedding industry, is that just like what you said, Jaron, like the old cameras, like you're literally going to a thrift store to hunt down a camera to use.
Yeah.
Like, and we do that.
Oh,
like
yeah.
we have like a little pop-up like Canon camera,
Sure,
that automatic.
We have the 120 film camera. We have
the Pentax, yeah.
We have the 35 point and shoot with the pop-up flash to give that.
Jaron, do you think that like that look of like 35 millimeter film, direct flash, do you think that is like a fad right now? Obviously that's just like what it used to look like.
I love that question.
That question I see every day on
Yeah.
Instagram or on a Facebook group or whatever.
I think the answer is yes, it is.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, that does not mean at all that film and all that type of thing is going to go away. I think right now there is a little bit of like an inflated TikTok, like all these videos of doing that type of look. But that look film is just timeless. Direct flash is timeless. Like that's just how we've always done photography. Like 24 frames per second is timeless because movies have been shot in that since the dawn of movies. So I think it's just a natural thing that like we have cameras nowadays, like Arri cameras and stuff that might have better dynamic range than film maybe, or better color maybe, and you can control the image more after you shoot it and stuff. But film is just timeless because of the way it renders everything. Like the grain looks nice, the colors look nice. It's like a natural thing, and you don't have to think about it. Just comes out nice. It's a timeless, vintage yet timeless modern look.
Yeah.
And I think that's why like so many of these apps have those Super 8 filters. So many video editors are using and some are selling these overlays for
Super 8.
And
Super 8 to
I'm
make
using
yourself.
them.
Yours is really good.
I'm the biggest. I love my style is like very minimalism, and I accept that like film will be around forever, but I'm afraid of missing shots. So if there's a new camera that I can just like burst stuff, I'm gonna shoot on that if I can make those photos look how I want. And a lot of times I think the technology is getting so amazing with some of that recreation.
Well, Kodak just released I don't know if it's released yet, but they announced a true film Super 8 camera.
Super 8,
But it has a viewfinder screen on it.
Yeah.
So it's got a digital screen.
Really?
So you can see what the shot looks like. I don't think you can go back and watch it unless it uses SD cards or something.
Did they like refurb like a model of
No,
it?
they-
And, like,
It's
No,
a
it's
whole
like a
new-
new thing.
new
And it was going
model.
to come out like, I think like years and
And
years ago. It was like 2016
and it
and
shoots
it got
film?
delayed, and then now it shoots
you
Super 8.
You put
It's just
Super 8
like his-
cartridges in it.
but it has a digital
It has a
viewfinder.
digital viewfinder.
I want that.
They're expensive, but like that's what I was
That's
gonna get at
cool.
though. Like that would be the most ideal setup, but they're expensive, and I honestly think they're kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
Where I also don't like the overlay thing, because I think most people don't do it right, because they're shooting these ultra sharp, super shallow depth of field shots that a film camera, whether it's 120, 35 millimeter, Super 8, whatever, couldn't do at the time.
I have a hot take on that.
So what you and I have done, and you've kind of experienced with this, is you use vintage lenses on your new gear.
Yeah.
You shoot at high apertures.
You turn off
stabilization just to kind of make it digitally look the way it would if you were doing Super 8, and then you do the overlay thing and process it a certain way to make it look actually authentic, because I would say 9 out of 10 people that use an overlay, it doesn't look like true Super 8.
Yeah.
And that comes from somebody who shoots true Super 8.
Do you know why I think that is?
Why?
And I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just being honest. I think that their like clips turn out like that and they look fake like that because of the lack of knowledge that they have with film.
Like everything I just listed about
Yeah.
adjusting
and like
if you're
what
shooting digital.
And like what Jaron said about like aperture and ISO and like f-stop, like all of that stuff, if you're going to replicate something like Super 8, you have to know why it looks the way that it does. And like Jaron, you know why it does, which is why your quote unquote like fake Super 8 looks actually authentic, and it does.
Yeah, and you sent me lots of clips, and
all I'm doing whenever I do that is like kind of it's a novelty most of the time. Like it's really fun to go out with a really expensive camera and then just like mess with the footage a bunch until it doesn't look like an expensive camera or like really old stuff. It's just cool to be able to do that. But when it comes to actual work, the look I'm going for everything is like as timeless as possible. And going really heavy-handed on fake Super 8 or fake whatever is probably never an amazing idea.
Yeah.
Just because it's not actually authentic.
Yeah.
So like I try and chase whatever just looks good. So
Yeah.
like, why do we like film? Because of like there's a bunch of color separation and those greens look like really like fresh. They're like kind of a tealy kind of green, and it's like I like that. So I'll take that and I'll emulate that. I like the way a little bit of film grain looks. It just kind of softens up blemishes on skin, and I like the texture and the shadows and stuff. So I'll add a little film grain even though I'm not filming on real film. But that's a timeless look. It just looks nice.
but like also like the frame rates and stuff, like there's such an influx of everything's got to be slow motion in the wedding industry, and that's just a crock of crap. I don't like doing it. I do it sometimes when the shot calls for it, but I prefer real moments to play out, and I think that is one of the draws to film video like Super 8 is that
It's just super
it's
organic.
the most raw, most organic type of video you can shoot.
Yeah. What is like, you know, we're talking about like the whole gear thing. Because you guys are like texting about gear all the time. So like, what is like some of like the newest gear that has come out that like is a topic of conversation between the two of you? And what are your thoughts on them?
We should talk a little bit about like just the market right now in terms of like cameras. If
It's
you're
funny.
investing into
I actually made
Yeah.
a note about a YouTube video I want to do on this topic, so we can go into that more on that. But like, one thing that I always say is Sony has become the Apple of the camera world, and what I mean by that is they're not that they're not focusing on making good products, but they feel this need to push out a new product every single year for no real reason.
Yeah.
Like there's such minimal updates on some of these updates. Some of them have more. It's like iPhone.
Yeah.
Some of the iPhones you're just like, this isn't really worth the update, but some are like, wow,
It says
this
like
is really
bug
cool.
fixes.
Yeah, but then you have Canon who, maybe they put out a camera like the C70 back in 2020 where it had some drawbacks and quite a bit of drawbacks. Like it's a cinema camera that doesn't shoot RAW, for example, was one big drawback that nobody liked. HDMI port instead of SDI port. Just a lot of these things that people would dog on, and some of the features on the operating system in general.
Yeah.
So instead of putting out a new camera, guess what they did?
Just start dropping
Firmware updates. So now the C70 that was at the time, what, $5,500, $6,500?
Yeah, like 65,
And the
I think.
C300 Mark III originally was like $12,000, $13,000.
Yeah.
They're almost the same camera now.
Right.
There's some little fluctuations.
Which is nuts. I think that camera specifically is like one of the best deals in all of the world of cameras right now.
The C70?
Yeah.
And that might be partially just because I'm kind of starting to like Canon right now. But
We knew that we would convert you.
And you work with us all the time, and that's what we shoot on.
Yeah. The most important thing is image, like more important than anything. So
What is like the hottest like thing right now in the market? Because you mentioned the market.
Well, I wanted to comment on what were you just? Oh,
The Sony Apple thing.
I wanted to say how I feel about that because I kind of disagree a little bit in that. One, I like Apple, so I'm like,
well,
love
we
Apple.
love Apple.
I love
Okay,
Apple.
okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like, all right, then I don't disagree. But I will I'll weigh in on it in that, like, I'm talking about this constantly to my girlfriend Kayla and my brother Josh and whoever's around me, unfortunate enough to be around me to hear me talking about this camera stuff constantly. Sony feels like the like rich dad that's like paying you off to be a good dad. He's like buying you everything. He's giving you all the ice cream.
That's interesting.
You drive a Camaro to school. You got it all bought for you. Every feature you could ever want in a camera is in that camera. And then Canon feels like the dad that can't, like, he doesn't have the money, but he's doing everything he can to take care of you.
He's a dad that has a 1970 Camaro in his garage that doesn't run right now, but he's trying so hard just to make it better and better and better.
Yeah.
Until one day it's
I
just
like that
out.
analogy.
And he made you pay for your car, so you learned a lesson.
So he's like teaching you responsibility and like, yeah.
That's a good analogy.
I love that.
That might be me thinking into it way too much, just because I'm like,
Wait,
so
can you
obsessed.
dissect that a little bit?
Yeah,
like,
I definitely have to, so I don't sound insane. Yeah, I just feel like Canon is like, they give you the features that matter most to me, and like those,
like functional features that you're actually going to use the most.
yeah, those
Okay.
would be image quality is top of the list, and then lenses, which plays into the image quality. I think lenses. It came from like Jared Polin. I've always heard, like, do you guys know the Afro guy?
Jared Polin,
Photo.
FroKnowsPhoto.com.
You know what? Actually, is that the guy that you showed me that I was like, I will never watch a video like this
He did a
ever
video
again?
bashing like wedding photography.
Really?
And I'm like, dude, you have not
Is
done
that the
wedding.
one that you had me watch?
Yeah, I'm like, I really wanted to just go on there and comment. He is very knowledgeable. He's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
But like some of the things, like the wedding photography thing that he made comments on, I'm like, you haven't shot weddings in so long. You have no idea what the industry looks like right now.
He'll make some hot takes for sure. He definitely will make.
He's
some
not
hot
afraid
takes.
of it, and there's a
Yeah.
reason why he's got multiple millions.
I couldn't
of
get
followers.
past his intro. It was like too corny for me.
He's literally done that since
Yeah,
the
I've
beginning.
been loving it. That like bass intro. Come on, I love
That
it.
is totally your
I
vibe.
love
that's
his
me.
little, I love his little cartoon character.
Yeah, but he's great. I've been watching him forever, and like he's always said, I'm not in a Jared Polin religion or anything, but just like he's always said, like glass, and like glass is the main thing that matters. Like he's always talking about whatever brand has the lenses is kind of like the most important
Which
thing.
Canon, I mean,
Canon is knocking it out of the park right now with
Yeah.
lenses, doing things that like nobody has done before, where it's like just
Like
incredible.
the 24 to 105. That's
what
like,
was the one that you were just telling me about? It had like different like buttons, like all these buttons, and I was like, that sounds like it's too much.
The 24 to 105 used to be like when you get a high-end camera, like the 5D Mark III, for example. When you get your kit lens, instead of it being like the cheap, 18 to 55 lens that you could get for a cheaper camera, if you get a higher-end camera, professional camera, the 24 to 105 is that kit lens that comes with the camera.
Yeah.
And it was an f4. F4 just in this day and age just isn't going to cut it most of the
No,
time.
no.
There was still a use for it,
Yeah.
but that was just the way it goes. And 24 to 105 f4 was it, like across the board, every camera manufacturer.
Everyone always dreamed like, why can't they just do a 24 to 105 f2.8? And
Yeah,
like
and
I
that's-
always got mad by that because I was like, because
they
it'll
have
be
a
the
twen-
size of your arm, dude.
They have a
like,
24
do
to
you want-
70, 2.8. Like
Yeah.
2.8 in the photography world was it for the longest time. And then
Yeah.
you have your primes that go down lower. So they put out the 24 to 105, first company ever to do it at 2.8 constant aperture. They added features to this thing that the cameras can't even use yet because the technology hasn't been put in the cameras.
That's kind of stupid though.
I think it's because they're working on something that they're about to release this year because they're due for something because they're getting outshined by everyone right now.
Yeah.
But it like has zoom
Servo zoom,
controller
it's got a motor
that you can
built in.
use. It's parfocal apparently, from what I understood.
Explain some of this, because some of these people that
Okay,
are listening
so-
might not know. I don't even know all of this
Just
stuff.
to keep it brief, the servo zoom means there's a motor like your old camcorders. You press a button, it zooms in. You press a button, it zooms out.
So you can smoothly do zoom ins and
So
out
like
in
if
camera.
you want to do like those office zooms. The Office.
Yeah.
You can change your speed of your zoom, and you hit a button, and it just it like smoothly switches.
So are we talking about like you hit a button on your camera body, or you hit a button on the lens?
There's a unit that you buy. It's $1,000 that you have to buy for the lens, and it clips onto the bottom, and it's got a little like the T and W tight wide or whatever.
Interesting.
The jury's
That's
still out,
too
though.
much for me.
The jury's still out, though, for whether it will connect to a controller on like a tripod or anything like that.
And it's also like 100% for video. There's
Yeah.
no point in
Oh,
buying
okay.
that for a photo.
This lens-
because you might as well just like rotate it
Yeah,
really
yeah,
quickly
okay.
and zoom.
This lens was developed with videographers in mind.
Got it.
But then there's like
Totally.
control buttons that you can set them to basically whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they have it is they're identical, or no, they're not identical, but they change because they're motion sensitive, and with vertical content being a thing, if you're horizontal, you set the buttons this way, and then you turn it vertical, the lens rotates too, so your buttons change, but you don't have to change your hand because the buttons are still in the right spots.
Yeah.
And your thumb's still going to hit the same button it was before, and it just switches internally, like with what the button is actually going to do.
Interesting. And this is like a brand new lens that
Brand new
Canon put out?
lens, it's $3,000, and
That's like crazy, the most innovative lens for video in forever. Like nothing's been made like that.
You don't feel like it's overkill?
for video, I
For
don't
video,
think so.
I would love to have something like
It's
for
no
weddings.
bigger-
It would be like you're just covered
It's
for everything.
the same like physical height and width as the 7200 EF that you use.
Oh my God.
It's
That's
about,
massive.
it's
That's what I'm
about-
trying to get rid of.
It's about half the weight.
Okay, that's fair. But like, okay, so like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not maybe I need to see a picture of this thing, but I can't imagine having all of these things that you have to like press and touch while you're also trying to focus on what you're doing. You don't think that that's too much, Jaron?
It doesn't. There's not much. There's nothing added to it.
That isn't something else. Yeah.
Is it just like the attachment is like what you control so you don't have to touch the lens at all?
Yeah, it just that is like one thing that just adds that feature. Now you have a button that zooms in and a button that zooms out, and that's all that.
And it
So,
has, like-
so
with it.
the intention is to make like everything that you're shooting, it's just like a streamlined, like very easy process.
Yeah, I mean,
It
that's
sounds
just a
overly
feature-
It's
complicated.
just one feature that you may or may not even use.
That's a feature that's on like really high-end video lenses, like broadcast. Like whenever
Yeah.
you watch basketball, and the lenses
Okay,
zooming in and
yeah,
out.
They're
yeah.
all electronic, so because they use controllers on their tripods.
Yeah, or like those broadcast style cameras. And like Sony has been, they have some cool lenses with like a rocker on the side that has servo built in, to where if you're holding the lens, you can like push it up and it slowly zooms in, or push it down and it slowly zooms out. They have a couple that are great lenses that do that. So this has kind of been around, but it's just everything, all the features, 24 to 105 f2.8. That's never been done before.
And it's also a photo/video lens that's got autofocus, got all the electronic features, but it also has a declicked manual aperture.
Yeah, and that's
What
good.
does declicked mean?
It means that when you're changing your aperture, a clicked aperture is each stop is a click in a section. So when you see it on your screen, it's a sudden shift. It like
so you can do a smooth ramp.
So
if I
if
walk
it's-
out the door and it's super bright out there, I can smoothly rack the.
So like
the-
when you're changing your shutter speed, for example, you see every stop that you come up or down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When it's declicked, it's completely seamless, like a variable ND filter, for example.
And most photographers like to have the clicks, just so it's like you can have it up to your eye and click one
Yeah.
over, and you're like, I'm at f1.4 now or whatever. But
Yeah.
videographers like it smooth, so you can do
Here's
smooth.
another
Okay.
here's another way to explain it. Internal ND filters, for example. There's not variable ND filters. They're different stops. So you hit a button, unless you're Sony. We're
I was about to
talking
say.
about Canon for now. You hit a button to go to 2 stops, brings this filter over. You go to 4 stops, it brings the filter over. So you see all of that.
Mm-hmm.
When you put a variable ND filter on your lens, you can ramp it smoothly without those sudden changes.
Gotcha. Okay.
That lens is so amazing, but I think it is kind of targeted towards the videography market. It would be amazing for photo too, of
Yeah.
course, but
Jared did a shoot between that. He did a safari shoot with that and then his 28 to 70, and he
Yeah.
said he loved the lens. Jared Poland.
Oh, okay.
He said he loved the 24 to 105, but the 28 to 70 is still his go-to lens.
Yeah, and I get that. Well, would you say the 28 to 70?
Yeah.
Yeah, because and that's
It's
what I was
got
about
that
to
extra
bring up.
stop.
That's the photographer's version. It's a 28 to 70, like a standard zoom, like similar to 24 to 70, where you can go into a room and know that you can pretty much capture anything that happens.
Well, yesterday Lauren was using that 24 to 70.
Yeah.
And she was like, you need to get this thing. And in my mind, I'm like, no.
It-
I'm just like, am a purist in the fact of like,
You like your primes.
I like my primes. A zoom lens outside of the 7200 kind of freaks me out. And I think that it's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just stuck in my ways.
I get
don't
it.
know.
It's
But
your
like,
way of shooting. It's how you shoot.
I think like I've talked about this on a YouTube video, like how a 35 millimeter shouldn't be a portrait lens, which I think that there's a time and a place. If you're going for like a specific look, my input on that has kind of changed a little bit as like the industry has shifted into like a different kind of style and like how our style has shifted. So, but I do think that like, even with like Caitlin James, I think, which I don't know, you guys might not.
Yeah,
I know
who
who she is, or I know you do. Do you know who she is?
Yeah, I know the name for sure.
She uses a 24-70, I think, on like every wedding.
28 to 70. The 2.0.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
she made a big whole thing because she used to be a prime shooter and
Yeah.
then got
And
that lens.
but like
oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
yeah, so she has like red hair.
Yeah.
So like even now, and I've followed her for a long time.
Yeah.
I used to pay for her education and all of that. I think that her work looks different because she uses that lens and like only that lens on a wedding day, whereas she used to use a 50 and an 85
Yeah.
on every single wedding. And hot take, I don't like it. Like I think I can tell a difference.
You're more than fair to say that because just technically speaking, anything that you can do with a zoom lens, you can do with a prime lens better.
But better.
Yeah.
A prime lens will always be sharper at any given aperture. It's just easier to design with less glass for zooming. And also, yeah, you get like on your lens that you use f1.2, you can't compete with that with no zoom.
I feel like it's not even like
and you don't even use that all the time. It's once you
No.
stop it down and
yeah.
it's
It's not even like a sharpness thing for me. I think for a lot of photographers, it's a convenience thing. Like you just said, Jaron, like they can walk in a room, know that they can get a tight detail shot, but then also like a wide shot.
Also, that circles back to if you have to carry a lens that's the size of a leg, like an elephant leg, like you're not going to be inspired with your gear. But if you have your 50 mil and you're like, this is lightweight, I can run around and just point it and shoot it, you feel more inspired now. And so like you're taking better photos with that.
And sometimes you have to adapt because it's not the
I feel
ideal
like-
lens for that situation, but that's all you have at the moment.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like, and maybe this is why I don't like a zoom lens like that, is because I really take into account like how I am seeing something with my own eyes. And I've said this before, I feel like the best lens that can replicate something as natural as the human eye is the 50 millimeter.
We've talked about this before too.
So
That's one of my favorite topics is talking about what the eye sees. I
like,
love that.
So if I had a zoom lens and I'm trying to like get like this specific like petal on a rose that's on the centerpiece, and
you want it to look natural.
I will move my body first to like look at
Yes,
the angle, and then I bring my camera to my face and take the photo. But if I had the zoom lens, depending on like where I'm standing, it wouldn't be the same.
And if you're not paying attention to
Does that make sense?
If you're not paying attention with the zoom lens to what focal length you actually are at, because I feel like there are a lot of people that shoot these zoom lenses that don't really pay attention to that part. They only pay
Does
attention
it
to how
say
it's
it on the
composed.
camera, like how far you're zoomed in?
It does. That's one nice thing is it says it on the screen
Okay.
with
Yeah,
Canons.
the more the common ones it'll tell you.
See,
is
that's
the
another
2.5.
thing is like, because I have this like hard rule about no 35s for portraits, if I was using it and we were like taking couples portraits and I accidentally had it at like 46 or like I'd be like, absolutely not. Like
Yeah.
that's a no, because I would be thrown off.
It's a little off. Like and you've seen the reels of it's the exact same photo, exact same composition, but it runs through like 24 all the way up to like 85 to 100 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can see how it warps the scene and even the person. Like the person's gonna look like they're a wider person at certain focal lengths. So if you want them to look natural and how they actually are, you have to know what the gear is going to do to the image, and that circles us all the way back to what this whole conversation was about. Is all these great lenses are coming out, all this great stuff, and all this amazing stuff that videographers and photographers can use to just make the best product possible for our clients. But if you don't know how to use it,
it's not going to do you any
it's not going
good.
to do you a damn bit of good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which
Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about this too. Like, it's always been our philosophy to learn the gear first. What camera did you start on?
the Canon,
It was the one I gave you, right?
Yeah, it was more. It was
T3i.
T3i. That's right.
Nice.
I was
So
like,
it
it
was
had a T in
That's
it.
like everyone's
It
favorite.
was like everyone's first
Yeah.
camera.
That was Jake's
It was my
favorite
first camera.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you learned on that, and then once you decided,
But if you handed me that now, I wouldn't know what to do with it.
well, what I'm getting at is that was, a beginner camera, which that's fine. If you had picked up
Yeah, but I shot my first wedding with that.
I know, but if you
Yeah.
had picked up at the time, a brand new 5D Mark III, you'd have been a little intimidated probably because
For sure.
but
I was already intimidated with the one you gave me.
but you ended up getting a 5D Mark III
Mm-hmm.
and ended up getting two 5D Mark IIIs because that was one of the top cameras. Even when the 5D Mark IV came out, we kept those
yeah,
cameras
I never had a 5D Mark IV.
because they were great cameras and you knew how to use them. You
So
Still
learned
is.
your craft.
And I was like afraid of the digital,
mirrorless?
the mirrorless and the digital viewfinder. I was like so afraid of it because even now, half of my career, I've shot 5D Mark III.
Mm-hmm.
I got the R6
2020.
2020. Obviously, I would never.
2021, actually, I think.
Wait, no, it was 2020. Wait,
Oh, yeah, you got a second one in 2020.
wait, was it 2019?
No, it wasn't that. It didn't come out yet. I don't think.
It
I
might
think it
be
was 2020, 2021. Either way.
Okay,
It's only been
anyway.
a handful of years.
Yes, and like I mean, if you're a photographer and you've shot these cameras, then you know what I'm saying. But like going from the Mark III to the mirrorless with the digital viewfinder was like a whole new world. Like literally, like my eyes were like open.
You
literally
loved it, right?
I loved
So-
it.
Literally like it was a three generation step of cameras that you took.
But I don't think that I would have appreciated it if I went to the 5D Mark IV first.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of back in the day was a little bit of my reasoning. It was like Canon wasn't really going all in on mirrorless stuff, and Sony like,
did.
It like invented like full frame mirrorless and all that stuff. Like they're the ones that like really are great in pushing that. So like that was kind of my reason for like
going that direction.
yeah a little
But
bit.
one thing we talked about yesterday, and I think this will be maybe one of the last things we talk about.
I want Jaron to share his Canon or his camera journey before
We'll talk
we wrap
about that.
up, though.
This might lead into that. We were talking about how it's amazing that nobody has really come out with the perfect camera because it's very clear what that looks like in your circle. And that's the part that I was talking
True.
about.
Yeah. True. I was
in
about to
your
disagree,
circle.
but in your circle.
In your circle, because it's
Yeah.
always people like, well, this would make the perfect camera. It's
I
no
think it
brainer.
depends on what you're shooting.
Right.
yeah.
So,
yeah. Like wedding videographers,
last-
we could all probably mostly agree on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like 2023, Canon got blasted because of the Sundance Film Festival. None of the films were shot. None of the short films were shot with Canon. Period. But then just now, like this past week, this year's film festival stuff came out for documentaries, and a majority of the shot, not maybe a majority, at least half,
Yeah.
were shot on Canon. And it wasn't even necessarily new Canons. Like the C300 Mark II was like 3 different films.
Yeah.
So the perfect cameras exist for what you're using them for.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what the biggest thing is that there is no perfect gear for one videographer. I'm going to use different gear for a movie than I will for a wedding.
You've had a journey too with your gear. Like you've done Sony, Blackmagic.
I never touched Sony. You always say
I
I
was
did
about to say-
Sony. I never did that.
Panasonic.
Panasonic, Blackmagic.
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now Canon, and I think that you feel pretty confident in your C70s. And
Yeah.
You
I'm
you found a
sticking-
happy place. But
I'm sticking with
Jaron has.
Jaron went from Sony, and then he
Let
started.
Jaron tell his story.
We were on Blackmagic and Panasonic when you started with us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you like?
No. I don't know if you ever. I don't know if I shot with you guys when you had Panasonic.
I know you did
That Jake
with
did, so
the
yeah.
Blackmagic.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely Blackmagic for a little
Anyway.
bit, which I loved. I love Blackmagic still. They're great.
I was going to ask you what you
They're
thought
just too
about those.
clunky, I think, for weddings. But
Yeah, for a time and place, like maybe for weddings, there might be better option. Like if you compare Canon and Blackmagic, Canon has more like quality of life, like autofocus and ease of use features.
and they work every time.
So, like, what has been
Yeah.
your journey with your gear? Because you're in the thick of it, bro.
Yep.
Yeah, I am. I'll like very quickly just run through like kind of what I've had professionally. I started with a 60D, which is like a T3i, but like a bigger grip. Basically, it was
Yeah.
the same era and like the same sensor and processor, so same pictures. Then I upgraded to the A6500 from Sony, and I was like,
Sony's
this is it. Yeah, I got the Sony, like Canon and Nikon, like who cares? Like,
Yeah.
I just felt like I was had the best, and it did serve me so well. That camera was so much for your money, and the Sigma DC DN lenses, like those kit lenses, which they've continued to fill out, those are amazing lenses for the money. And I still appreciate what that camera did for me, but I upgraded to the A7S III eventually when I started working with you guys.
Which is like
that's like the amazing camera. A $90 million movie was just shot on that camera. And that feels...
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was the FX3.
Same sensor, same processor. So
basically, so
it's the same camera.
There's the FX3, that's the quote unquote cinema version.
It's literally the same camera in a different body. So
Yeah.
I can take every shot they took in that movie, I could take with my camera. If I was as good as they are. They're great. I haven't seen that movie yet. I want to see that, the creator. But
yeah.
got the A7S III, absolutely amazing. It's like the beast mode camera. You can shoot in pitch black and slow motion, full frame. It does it all. Autofocus. I still am not sure who does autofocus better, Canon or Sony. I've thought since 2016 that Sony has taken the edge on autofocus.
For video, I would agree with that.
For both, I would say. But yeah, who knows?
And then you switched to Canon for like a hot minute.
So I was like so happy with Sony forever, and I just feel like Sony has not kept up with the updates. I know that they have not kept up with the updates like Canon has.
Canon just put on a new camera instead.
Yeah, yeah, true. Well, they haven't really replaced my camera. There's nothing that I think I would rather have. I would rather have an FX3, but that's the same thing. Once again, there's nothing new better than like what's out right now, like my camera from Sony. And I've decided lately, like image quality, I didn't decide that recently, but image quality is the most important thing for sure. And the Canon C70 has that over, I think, anything that Sony makes right now. In terms of the most important thing to me is dynamic range, and that's just what Canon's killing it with.
But also lens choices, because we talked about
and
that
lens
too.
Choices, those are the two most important
the RF
things.
lenses are game-changing lenses, but then you can also easily natively adapt the EF because it's also a Canon mount.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a whole video.
So many.
There's gonna be a whole video because like I have to collect my thoughts about the whole process. But basically, I decided I wanted to switch to Canon. I bought an R6 II mirrorless body, and
you only had it for like a week.
I only had it for like
what was
a week.
What was like the moment that you had where you're like, F this, I'm selling it, going back to what I had?
Scrolling through all my photos that I had taken with that camera, and multiple of them were out of focus where they wouldn't be with my Sony camera. And this is like a Canon, like we were just talking about. You have to get, if you want to buy a good photo camera from Canon, you have to buy a photo camera. If you want a good video camera from Canon, you have to buy a video camera.
Like dedicated video, dedicated photo. Yeah.
If you
That is true. They don't have like a camera other than probably the R6.
The R5C is probably the best hybrid camera, but it's so hard to do both at the same time.
And I hate that. I hate that camera for photo, and I hate it for video. I've never used it, but I think there's a lot of really stupid drawbacks.
You just need to use it. As somebody who tried so hard to hate it for so long, the moment I actually use it and work with the footage, I don't hate it anymore.
Yeah.
I still see drawbacks.
Do you have that?
No. That's what Mike had in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was like, wait, do we have that camera? I don't even know.
It's a great camera. Yeah. But I switched to Sony, and I just wasn't happy with, like, I just felt like it was failing me in the photo. I had gotten a photo camera, and it was failing me in the photo department somehow. And that might just be because I've shot Sony for
so long.
So right now,
7
your
years.
Sony is for sale again.
Yeah, my camera's for sale.
And what are you hoping to get? What's on your radar?
I'm going to be a big dumb idiot and buy the same exact camera that I had before when I went to Canon, the R6 II, and that'll be my photo camera, I think.
And then you'll get a separate one?
Get some C70s for video, just because I think the C70 is just like...
And you've gotten
I have gotten
like
pretty used to it.
familiar
Yeah.
using ours.
And the whole gear acquisition syndrome thing, when this year, this is the year, I know it's the year we talked about, this is the year.
Yeah.
Canon's going to put out new cinema cameras this year.
Totally.
That's just going to make the C70 cheaper. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to it...
Are you going to wait for that, though? Are you going to...
Probably.
Are you going to wait for the biggest and better thing?
I probably do have to, just for financial reasons.
Yeah.
I probably will invest
to get this,
in...
but later, right?
Yeah, I'm probably going to invest in just the R6 II and maybe like a second photo body and not have a video, like a video cinema camera for a little bit, and then see what they do. Either get a C70 with cheaper used prices or get whatever they come out with.
Well, that's why I was like kind of surprised that you got rid of the Canon right away. I was like, I literally just heard that he got it like 2 days ago. And I was like, I feel you are so, like, you are a wealth of knowledge with like photo and video and gear specifically. I was like, did he even give it like a solid chance to like actually like hone in all of his skill that he has on this one thing? And I love you, but the answer is no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Veronica
need to give it a
goes,
solid
he didn't even
go."
shoot a wedding with it yet.
I'm like, he needs to give it a solid go, because not that I don't know anything about that camera.
partial.
But it's Canon, and I know that like,
we know what they're capable of.
The thing is like all my positions still stand. Like Canon does so many stupid things compared to other brands. And we were talked about this last night, is like, you're like, why do you hate this? I thought you hated that camera. I thought you hated this camera. And I'm like, I hate all cameras.
Yeah.
Like,
Because every
none
one of them, you have to feel like you feel like you have to compromise.
Yeah, none of them. Like, I just want to take a piece from this, piece from this.
And what does Julia shoot? Julia shoots the same
My
thing,
camera,
right?
A7S3, yeah.
So like there are some weddings, and again, it just depends on like the wedding and the lighting and everything like that. There are some weddings where I prefer the C70 footage, and then there are other weddings where I prefer the Sony footage.
Yeah.
As far as like, because I color correct all of our stuff. And so I'm like, what the heck? Like it really just like does depend on your
there is
environment.
no perfect camera because there's
Yeah.
every situation's different. Like that's why all the brands come out with like a high resolution body and then a super lower resolution body, and the lower one's like way faster.
And I just like this is just kind of neither here nor there, but I think that Sony's like video like crispness,
The sharpness.
the sharpness is far more sharp.
That's a
than
whole
the
other
Canon.
topic though too, because
Yeah.
like Canon doesn't Canon stuff on the cinema
But
line
you like that.
isn't sharpened
Yeah.
because they give you that ability to do in post.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that the R5C, for example,
I'm not 100% sure about this.
has
I'll need to do research, but that's like one of my top reasons why I'm switching is I think that Sony does uncontrollable in their raw files. There's like noise reduction, and then which is
the
blurring.
noise reduction is actually a thing, because that's what I was about to talk about that.
Yeah, all brands do that to a certain extent. They do noise reduction, which is just blurring basically, and then you have to add sharpness back, and it's just fake. So like it just doesn't look right, and that's why like sometimes I feel like you get like mushy or like over the skin tones look like you're like a
On
zombie
Canon
on
or
Sony
on
because
Sony?
they overprocess it. They're like, get rid of the grain, now bring back the sharpness back up, and it's just like you've brought out all these like
And it's all-
Imperfections.
wrinkles,
And it's all
and,
baked
like,
into the footage.
Exactly.
Whereas
And
like
the
the
raw
R5C,
file.
even though you hate it and it's not a perfect camera, but I think
Exactly,
I
yeah.
haven't dug into the raw feature of the cinema cameras, like if I can do this on all of them or just this one. But you can adjust how much noise reduction it uses,
Noise
or if
reduction,
you want to use
sharpness,
it at all.
right? Which you cannot turn off that 100% on Sony
At least
cameras.
like you get the freedom to do it. Like if you want to shoot completely noise reduction free and then do it in post, that's your option.
Well, that's like a whole nother podcast about how like cameras, the settings that you use in junction with
Your
the
workflow.
post-production.
Yeah.
And how like you maximize that on each camera. Like, that's a lot.
It's
That's
going to be a really
that's
long
a lot.
gear, but we need to wrap this up.
Yeah. You guys, so we've talked about before of you guys having gear talks and things like that on our YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
You guys really need to do that. But I think that it would be cool to have like a podcast chat too from time to time.
Yeah.
I hope you're okay with this, Jaron. But like we intend to have Jaron on like as a regular person to chat with us.
Here and on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Well, this is on YouTube also, but here
Well,
and the
yeah.
other YouTube stuff.
yeah.
And I want to start my own YouTube channel too.
needs to
I
do
hate
that.
being
Do
on
it.
camera, so this is kind of like not forcing me,
Your
but like
introduction.
I'm just like I'm gonna do it because I was
Break the ice and get your channel
exactly.
started.
No.
I just ignore it.
yeah.
Yeah, we literally just talked. So
that what you
basically,
mean?
I think the whole grand scheme of what we've talked about is there's a lot of really good gear. There's no perfect gear.
Shoot with what you got.
Shoot with what you got and master the craft
Yeah.
to the point that you feel like you could pick up literally any camera and it works well. Because at that point, then the features in those cameras will actually help you.
Yeah.
For someone that is like kind of starting their career out in the wedding industry, I'll be specific, and they're doing video, Jaron, what would be like your number one recommendation?
That's
so
so
hard. It's
I
so
know.
hard.
That's like
I know.
that's like the question in all the groups that you're just
I
like,
want
you're gonna
Jaron's
get a million different
perspective
answers.
though.
This is the thing is like, this is why Canon bothers me. And in Red too, I have a thing that like, I'm mad against Red and Canon because I kind of feel like they gatekeep a little bit. And I think gatekeeping is like the stupidest thing, because it's like, if you're gatekeeping, that means that you're not actually better than me.
Yeah.
Like, you're holding something back from me because you know, if I went to that location, I would kill it, like better than all your photos. Like,
Yeah.
the only reason that you're better than me is because you're holding something.
Yeah.
But like Red patenting compressed raw,
Yep. And then going after anybody who tries to do
going
anything
after
similar.
anybody, that's hurting the camera industry. That is so stupid. Like,
Yeah.
we want the camera industry to advance forward. I want better cameras, like, constantly every
we all
year.
do.
So that's so annoying. And like with Canon, as we've been saying, if you want a video camera that's great, you kind of have to invest in something with a Red C on it, which is really
The
expensive.
cinema line cameras.
Yeah,
Cinema.
they're so expensive from Canon.
I will say the moment that we switched to cinema line, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to switch to Canon. So I get it. It's like at the highest end, I can see it making sense, but on the low end, it's such a loaded question.
So maybe just like start out with,
you would not be wrong to start out with like the Canon's cheap gear is great.
yeah.
Like their lower end
and then
gear is
perfecting your skill with that.
I think
Absolutely.
that's a trick question, because my opinion is whatever you want to get, whatever's going to work the best for what you're going to shoot is the camera you need to get if you're just starting out.
Yeah.
Because at that point, the gear really doesn't matter, because there's every camera you buy is going to produce good content right these days.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's no better time to be a videographer.
And it's
Yeah.
like buy once, cry once type thing.
Right.
Like
So
Smitty taught me
buy
that. It was
it.
like, get the expensive thing. You won't regret it. Like,
Yeah.
if you know that you want that and you're probably going to buy it 5 years down the road,
Mm-hmm.
you might as well just buy it now.
But if you don't know, just buy what you think you want on the lower end and master it.
Yeah.
Master the craft, and
Yeah.
then decide, is this where I want to stay, or do I want to go another direction?
And if
Yeah.
so, invest in it, because as I was saying before, like lenses, like glass, like, I saw a question this morning. Do I upgrade my, I don't remember what they said, like R10 or whatever, like a cheap Canon body, or do I upgrade my lenses? Do I go full frame, or do I start investing in like some nice primes and stuff over my kit lens?
And you're like the primes.
Yes,
Yeah.
like get some lenses. You're 18 to 55.
Well,
you're
it just
not
opens you
getting-
up to a
no.
whole different realm
Yeah.
of creativity
I always
too.
tell everybody, especially people with Canon, get a Canon. First thing you need to buy after that is a nifty 50.
Yeah, because it's so cheap and
that's
so
the cheap
great.
lens, and it's
Yeah.
probably one of the best lenses to
That's
this
what
day.
I started out. You
for the
probably
money.
used
I
like the
started
Nifty
out with
50
that.
on
I
the
used it.
yeah, that lens with like the cheap body. My brother Jake, his YouTube channel, he talked about that exact topic. Like, nothing better than those good old golden days.
Well,
of,
let's plug his YouTube.
Who's?
Jake's.
Jake Hayden. I'll link it in the bottom.
Yeah, he does dope stuff on
A
there.
lot of camera
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, check him out.
A lot of Blackmagic, Fujifilm, lots of
Is your
lots of cool
channel
gear.
up?
Not yet.
I have a channel.
Okay.
It's like
He hasn't posted anything, but when he does, we'll post it.
I got some like old videos from like 2016.
No,
by
we'll
the
put it- we'll put it in the
If by
description.
the time this video comes out, he's launched it, we will tag his
Yeah.
YouTube channel in the comments.
Yeah.
Or the description.
Otherwise, Jaron shoots all kinds of stuff. You love like car content, coffee content.
Yeah.
Like you're super talented and
Yeah.
creative, and that's why we love you. So, okay, tell people where they can find you on Instagram.
Everything is like Jaron_Hayden.
Perfect.
That's all my
Jaron.
Jaron.
Yeah.
Hayden_Hayden.
Perfect.
Perfect. YouTube.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you
Again.
guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for all the kind words. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, this won't be the last time y'all hear from him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
That's
Gear
all I
talk.
got.
Okay. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed and nerded out with Alex and Jaron. I'm sure that there will be way more gear talk in the future.
Always.
Yep.
Amongst other things, we want to talk about like second shooting and like chemistry and all kinds of stuff we got
Dogs.
planned up. So dogs, yeah.
Puppies.
Puppies. All right, y'all. So that's it for this week's pod, and catch you on the next one. Peace.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. Oh my god, it's the best. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. Oh my god, I'm obsessed.